Do you remember the season of American Horror Story called Hotel? Well, if you're familiar with this channel, of course you do. Now that we've had years behind us and some other not so great seasons, I'm here to say that American Horror Story Hotel is much better than you remember. Hello to my American Horror Story historians. My name is EJ and welcome to my channel. In this video, we are going to be looking at American Horror Story, but with a different lens, a different vibe. I want to sit here and digest this season in a proper way of not having to rank it amongst other seasons without really having to talk about anything else but Hotel. It feels like this is a season that was once the most hated season ever, but has now gone on in American Horror Story history as, for some people, a middle tier ranking, for others like me, a top tier ranking. We're going to discuss that. We'll talk about the legacy it had while it aired, while I think it was pretty great at the time, and then we'll talk about some things that maybe aren't so perfect about it. No season of American Horror Story is perfect. Hotel is no different, but there's still a lot of juicy, great things to talk about, so that's what we're going to discuss in this video. So let's go check into the Hotel Cortez, and let's talk about American Horror Story Hotel. Like I said at the beginning, this was one of the most hated seasons. We were coming off the Jessica Lange era. This was the first season we had no Jessica Lange involved. This would be the first major shift in the AHS universe that we would see. It just completely was like, oh, we're in new territory now. It felt like we were starting over from like the ground up, and it's hard because we had built and established so much stuff that with American Horror Story Hotel, it felt like we had lost some of the old viewers and we're struggling to gain the new ones. Thankfully, I don't think it hurt the show that bad. We still got a couple Emmy nominations too for acting, a couple of the technical ones, and the ratings were pretty strong at the time. So yes, there was some kind of backlash, but it didn't really affect the show that hard, though the reviews were not that nice. Vulture called it insufferable. IGN called it out at the time. The Reddit threads, I didn't even know Reddit was like a popular thing back then, but wow, were they popping off with comments, critiques, just kind of issues that they had with the season. So you could see the critical and fan backlash was starting to brew. And I understood it. It was a departure. We were seeing something different. This was also felt like, the people who loved it, though, were already backed into a corner having to defend it. As a Batman v Superman fan, I understood that feeling. I got why fans didn't, love it initially, but truly, they were like bullying the people who did like it. It was just like, I just happen to like what I'm seeing. Please leave me alone. Like I said, BVS fan, like an alternative film fan, you're quite used to that. But not with American Horror Story. We've never really had to defend it as much as we felt like with Hotel. And now we're looking back on it and you're like, okay, what are we doing? Like, are we really this angry about it? It reminds me, I did another video on this channel about Drag Race Season 7, which was a season that was so hated at the time, but now that we've spent years later with seasons that have been much worse, you kind of go back to appreciate that, and that's what we've seen now with American Horror Story Hotel. I don't think it's won over people who were like, insane haters of it, just did not get the tone, the style, didn't like the characters. I'm not like diminishing those people. If you just don't like the season, that's fine. But I do think growing now with time, we've had seasons like Cult right after it. We've had other seasons like 1984 or Double Feature or Delegate now that maybe aren't the most fan favorite, that have similar issues to Hotel as well. So I think that we've seen a bit of a critical reevaluation of Hotel, which has saved the legacy a bit. It also helps that it's included in Apocalypse, which was also the other major shift we would see after Apocalypse. It felt like we went into a new American Horror Story era, but once we referenced Hotel in Apocalypse, it felt like it added it to the cool kids party. We had, oh, Murder House is here. Oh, we have a little bit of Coven. Yay, that's awesome. Some Asylum. Maybe we'll reference a little bit of everything, but we'll really give Hotel a bit of a moment too. Great, awesome. I just really thought Hotel needed the legacy it needed at the time for it to grow to where it is now. I always appreciated it. I always loved it. And now we're going to talk about why I liked it at the time and why I never understood you haters, because it's so much damn fun. You may be asking yourself, but why, EJ? Why did you love this so much? And simply, Lady Gaga. I'm just kidding. but I might. So this was a hard season for me because this was like neck deep into my Lady Gaga obsession. I still have the same tattoo she has. Like, this is my girl. I love Gaga. So her getting involved with what was my favorite show at the time, it was just this mix of worlds that it felt fake. It felt like this is too real. This is too good to be real. Like, what is happening? What is going on? Wow. And then it just, the marketing came, and then Gaga was in the season, the forefront. She was almost replacing what the Jessica Lange role was as this kind of big marquee actress to get us into the season. Because Jessica Lange truly had so much weight, so much like legacy attached to her name that when she was on American Horror Story, it was a very big deal. Gaga coming off as like the biggest pop star ever. She was coming off the art pop era, which was a bit rough for her and her public perception, I guess, a little bit. So, but Gaga coming onto American Horror Story was a massive deal. We had the world's biggest pop star coming in to do a TV show and just eating it up. No pun intended, because my girl was a blood-sucking vampire this season. But it's just so amazing to see Gaga lead a show like this. I mean, we're watching her about to enter the Joker era where she's playing Harley Quinn in a very weird adaptation of that. We've had House of Gucci. We've had the amazing A Star is Born. Around this time, we had Machete Kills. My goodness, Gaga's acting career really exploded, and you have to thank American Horror Story Hotel for that. She really plays this role well. The Countess is such a fun... I wouldn't call her the main character. I feel like Iris and Liz end up being kind of the main characters, but the Countess is such a good anchor. She's such a good heart and soul to the season. I think the hotel revolves around her. She may not be the central thing moving it. Again, I really do think Iris and Liz Taylor end up really running the hotel, becoming such main figures of it. I was reading through the Wikipedia, just kind of going through. I'm like, wow, Iris and Liz are really in a lot of this stuff. They really are involved. But the Countess was so crucial, so key, and it was just such a fun character. She also brought in this whole new tone. The tone of American Horror Story Hotel felt so different than all the other ones. You have the camp aesthetic that maybe we got a little bit in Coven, but this isn't for the fans of the craft. This is for fans of the hunger. This is for fans of possession. These weird art house horror films that are more about like female-led performances or more about sexy, interpersonal drama, things like that, than it is, bitchy funny lines or some kind of pop culture referencing stuff like we got in Coven. And I love Coven. Do not take that as shade, but I'm just saying that Hotel felt like it was camp, but for a different type of campy folk. I also like the darker tone for this. Wikipedia, like I said, I was going through it, and they're like, this is one of the darker themes of the show. I'm like, I think Asylum and Freak Show are much more heavier, much more hard to watch. And again, not to discredit those seasons, but they're very heavy, dour seasons at times. Hotel mixes the balance a little bit. It's heavy. We have, children dying. We have a lot of the serial killer stuff. We will talk about the Ten Commandments killer in a moment, maybe not in the best category, but yeah, we had a lot going on here that is heavy, but there's still an element of fun. There's still an element of vibrance. It almost felt like an action movie at times. One of my favorite episodes I can remember is where Gaga and, what's his name? Gaga and Donovan are doing separate kills to people who they love, and it's just like played back and forth, like, who's the little mouse now? There's some really funny, quotable moments here. There's some really good, hard-hitting moments too. The Liz Taylor journey through her love life, that just speaks to me, and I loved that relationship so much. Liz Taylor is such a special character. Oh my god, it blows my mind, the characters of this show. That's the other big thing. This season had some of my favorite characters in all of American Horror Story. Hypodermic Sally, the Countess, Iris, Liz Taylor, James Patrick March. My goodness, one of the best, maybe the best Evan Peters character on all of American Horror Story. I'm not trying to, hot take you Evan Peters fans out there, but I really think James Patrick March is like the king of this damn show. Yeah, again, these are just great characters. They're really, they bring you in. As much as the stories can be a bit wackadoo, a bit crazy, the characters are really why you're there. They draw you in. It's fun without taking itself too seriously. That's the whole show's vibe. It is a very serious time, but it's not taking itself too seriously. It wants to be goofy, it wants to be weird, and it really does help sell this season as such a memorable watch. So we got the background of how we got here with American Horror Story Hotel. I talked about why I loved it at the time. Now let's talk about why it's not a perfect season. Like I said, no AHS is perfect. Your favorite season has some insane wackadoo moments. We all know that. This season, all right, the story's a mess. It jumps around, and that's to say other seasons are messy. I'm sorry, you Asylum fans, that season, that story is wackadoo. It's weird, it's crazy. Hotel has a similar problem where I'm like, who's connected to who? Why is going on here? You die here. There's just a lot of details. You almost kind of have to keep a notebook of who's happening because there's a lot of players here. There's a lot of people like Mr. Wu you meet. You know, you have the serial killers that kind of pop up. You have a lot of these things that you're like, okay, yeah, here, there's a lot going on. Where I really wish they would focus on the Countess. Maybe the Ten Commandments killer could be a thing. But let's just talk about that. What is the Ten Commandments killer? Why is it here? It is such a frustrating story, especially because I wanted the Countess to leave at the end, and when he just shoots her for the last kill, and I'm like, oh, but why? Like, this is so frustrating. The Ten Commandments killer, like, it's portrayed well. I think, you know, the James Patrick March manipulating a cop to do this, that's fine, but I don't care about the cop. I don't care about his wife. I don't care about Holden. I could do a whole 35-minute video while that small child and me, I wanted to, like, suplex him through a table. Frustration. So yeah, we have the serial killer storyline, which is overall kind of messing the overall story. I would also say kind of a counterpoint to what I said earlier. This season is very fun. It is also not serious. That is a problem at times where this season specifically, could handle its harder hitting elements a bit better. It could handle its dramatic story arcs. Like, the Liz Taylor story is beautiful, but it just feels kind of fluffy. It feels like it doesn't have as much weight as it should. Maybe if it wasn't something like Freak Show, it would be a more recognized story because it would be in a more mature season. Hotel has the camp. It has the blood, the glamour, the glitz, but that isn't for everyone, and that's something to acknowledge, that it seems like the American Horror Story fan base is split between campy and serious. They either want it to be a hard-hitting thing, I would say like a Murder House, Asylum, Freak Show, 1984 at times, maybe Cult, or they want something silly like the other half of 1984, or like they want Coven, or they want the double feature stuff. They want something, we're split in between, and then you have NYC where everyone's like, even the hard-hitting people are like, that is too much for me. So yeah, American Horror Story struggles with balancing its tone with its fan base, and I do think that is a big hindrance for Hotel. It's like, it's too weird and outlandish for even the most weird American Horror Story fans, but also, it's like fun for being that. I don't know. It's hard for me to critique the season because there isn't a lot of issues here for me. Like I said, story could be better. It could be a little bit more polished, a little bit more streamlined. I don't think the serial killer adds anything to it other than the really cool Devil's Night episode. And my goodness, can this show and this season specifically get a little too weird, a little too over the top, that even sometimes I went, why do I love this? This is way too strange. This was a video I've been wanting to make for quite some time. I've now finally gave you my defense of American Horror Story Hotel. Every time it's at the top of one of my rankings, every time I praise it, there are some people who are like, but why? Here's my but why. I want you guys to understand this season is great. It is much better than you remember. So take this time, go onto Hulu, Disney Plus, bust out the DVDs that you have. I don't care how you watch it, but go back and watch Hotel. It is a great fun time that a lot of us really, now again with some worse seasons under our belt, we can really appreciate what Hotel had to offer us. Alright guys, that is it for my video. What did you think? Make sure you give me a thumbs up, comment down below. I have not said any bad words, so this video should stay monetized. If you want to see my video that I do talking about Charmed, I talked about Charmed on this channel. I've talked about RuPaul's Drag Race Season 7, a very similar video to this of how, you know, let's look back on this and it's much better than you guys remember. So thank you guys for subscribing, tuning in, all that jazz. Now let's talk about American Horror Story Hotel right down below.